Hello, Mr. Patil. Good morning. Good morning. How are you doing? How is Shoe Dog? How far have you reached there? Is it is it fun? Are you having fun with Shoe Dog? Well, that sounds wrong, right? Are you having fun with Shoe Dog? Is not exactly the thing to say. Sorry about that. But are you having fun with the book Shoe Dog? I guess that's permissible. How's that going? Uh, no. Okay. Finish the book. Oh my God. Also, you mentioned Scott Adams. You picked up How to Fail at Everything. Oh my God. First of all, you finished Shoe Dog. Please tell me something about, that. How was that experience? Did you laugh? And did you find it interesting? And secondly, you have picked up How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big, which is a beautiful book. Which is a beautiful book. So, first of all, congratulations on finishing Shoe Dog. I hope you really, I'm looking forward to what you have to say on that. I really am. So, let me just get my LinkedIn sorted and then we will begin. Yeah, I'm here. Amazing book. Indeed, the humor part, yeah, exactly. If it's not funny, it's not life. That's what I also try always in life. I just want to be funny, you know? People think being smart is important. I'm like, who gives a shit about smart, right? You should be funny, man. Because if you're not funny, let's say even if you're smart, but if you're not funny, you'll be boring. And boring is bad. Nothing is worse than boring. It's a very detailed book, you say. What do you mean by detailed? In what way do you mean detailed? Sometimes I wonder how these people remember so many minute details like chair color, etc. Oh yes, so I what I noticed was that a lot of these people keep a diary, keep a journal. I don't remember what was the color of your shirt yesterday. Uh, that is an interesting question actually. That level of detail is hard, but sometimes we do have those memories. So what I noticed when I read Idea Man by Paul Allen sir was that he wrote a diary. So he was quoting his diary. So on this particular date, I wrote this diary. Or when I was reading Ghost Rider Travels on the Healing Road by Neil Peart sir, he was mentioning the letters he sent to people. So that's how these people are able to track whatever they've been doing by diaries. I also keep a diary. I write a diary every day. I've been writing a diary every day since 2012 May. So any day you pick up any day since 2012 May, I can just read that day on my diary. It's calendared, right? So I could read that day and relive it in like full detail, like very very big detail. So that's very nice. So I guess I'm audible. That's why we've been talking. I hope I'm audible on LinkedIn as well. First of all, congratulations on finishing. Yeah, I am audible on LinkedIn. So uh, uh, I'll just begin now. Oh, that's nice. Let me think, and maybe you inspire me to start writing a diary. I request a lot of people to do that. People find it hard. So my advice to people is like, don't think about it. Like, don't write too much in the diary. Uh, the bare minimum. Bullet journaling. Bullet journaling is like woke up at 5:30, did a terrific episode of Thinker's Frequency, started working at 9:30 a.m. A few details of work, uh, met somebody, if at all, and then slept early. That's it, the bullet journal. And that sort of gives you, and then a few notes here and there gives you everything you want to uh, record. And also it inspires you to become better, because if you write something bad every day in that diary, you feel like you want to do something else. So before we begin, I'd like all viewers of Thinkers Frequency to congratulate Mr. Patil. Mr. Chirag Patil just finished reading Shoe Dog, a brilliant book. He started, as we talked about it in Thinkers Frequency in one of those episodes, and he read the book in like 5 days, I guess, in less than a week. He finished Shoe Dog, and he says he loved it, and I'm glad that he loved it. And now he's picked another book of Scott Adams, sir, one of my personal heroes, How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big. The common part of the common, let's say, the commonality between these two books is a shared sense of humor, which we want to develop in ourselves, because I personally want to develop a very very good sense of humor, and I'm naturally not that funny, but I try. So, bum 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 bum. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Thinker's Frequency. We're having such a good time. This is the peak of human civilization. We're working so hard, doing such good work for ourselves, our parents, our kids, our siblings, our husbands, our wives, our friends, well, everybody. Not other people's husbands and wives, I hope. And just when we thought things couldn't get any better, like they couldn't possibly get any better, well, they just did. Call it divine intervention, folks, but things just got a whole lot better. Now we have Thinker's Frequency, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. So let's continue with our journey of reading between the lines things that are especially interesting and important in the world of business and finance. Let's go! Oh, but before we go, we gotta follow tradition, right? You know the tradition? You know the sweet and sacred tradition of the simultaneous sip? We'll all sip something together, and it'll bring us good luck, as it does every day. And all you need for the simultaneous sip is a cup or mug, a glass, a tank, a chalice, a stein, a canteen jug or flask, or a vessel of any kind. Pour it with your favorite liquid. Today I'm having green tea with some black pepper in it. So I mixed hot water, black pepper, and green tea. Triple dhamaka. And here we go. Oh my god. Beautiful, beautiful. Let's do it again. Sublime. You know what the simultaneous sip says, right? You know what it says? It says that you are not alone. It says that we're in this together. And that's such a beautiful thing to say, right? With that out of the way, Mr. Chirag Patil says, thank you for motivation which helped to finish the book. That's what we are here for, right? We motivate each other. You motivate me. I'm not kidding. With such kind audience, genuine reception, I seriously feel very motivated. Let's begin. So, a lot of heavy stuff today, so please tighten your seatbelts. Corporate loans at banks slide on companies tilting towards markets. So we've discussed this at Thinkers Frequency. When companies do well, are doing well when they have a lot of cash, when they have a lot of liquidity, when they have good prospects, they don't need to borrow from banks. Okay, they can go to the bond market and raise bonds. Okay, bond is essentially, or corporate papers and so on and so forth, right? When a company is doing good, it can just go to the bond market, capital market, to raise money. And that is bad news for banks, which is what's happening. So it's good news that India Inc. Has some liquidity goodness, let's say, but it's bad news because corporate lending which is one of the very big parts of the banking play, it's not growing as much as it should, right? So banks are looking at corporate loans sliding because companies are tilting towards these bond issues. Bond issues is like, I have a company, I want 100 rupees from you. I'll say that here is a paper, a bond paper, and this much interest. So let's say if a bank is giving me like 7%, 8% interest, I can go to the bond market and get that same loan at 5.75%, and so on and so forth, right? So that is what's going on. Speaking of the markets related to bank, yesterday's earnings reports of banks, which didn't seem bad at all, right? They could have been much worse. They weren't as satisfying for the markets. So the analysts are saying that these banking reports, apart from Reliance, which has a serious weight in the Indian stock markets, apart from Reliance, weak showing by IT and banking is testing the stress limit of, let's say, 24,900 of Nifty. So they say that they're not happy with the bank's earnings. They are at a 9-month low. Net interest margins have screwed the banks, they say. And even though we read those reports, right? We read BOFA, we read a lot of banks' reports, and they said the net interest margins didn't really hurt them that much, right? And net interest income had grown, but they say that it's not satisfactory. The financial community is not happy with the banking earnings reports. So it's a complicated Monday as far as stock markets are considered. Speaking of the stock markets and what's causing their downturn, IT is looking at serious pressure once again. The news says that IT companies tighten belt as AI macro headwinds squeeze business margins. Now, it might just be news for anybody. Basically, it shouldn't be. But viewers of Thinkers Frequency know we've been talking about this for a very long time. That a lot of stress which IT is facing right now, it has yet not hit them. It has yet not hit them. So a lot of people think that this could be temporary, and let's hold up on the stock and so on and so forth, and it's gonna pick up and it's gonna reinvent and so on and so forth. Uh, it, major troubles have not hit Indian IT as of now. So that is the reality, and perhaps that's why they've written tighten the seat belts as AI macro headwinds. Macro headwinds are temporary. Okay, macro situation is temporary. Right now, US and India are just gonna sign a deal in August, and Russia-Ukraine war, whenever, let's say, it runs for 6 more months or a year and so on. Macro is not permanent, right? Macro situations can get better, but those macro situations are not gonna help Indian IT. Is the real insight, because technology is fundamentally moving towards a shift, right? Which people are starting to realize. It's becoming clearer for people, uh, but not as clear as. Uh, moving on, passport for China electronics entry, tech transfer JVs, government open to certain routes for the dragon. So we've discussed this, that government has allowed up to 24% of joint venture investment from Chinese companies in Indian companies. Uh, this is two pronged approach. Either this could be because of Mr. Jaishankar's meet with Mr. Wang, and it's a diplomatical thing, that diplomatic thing that they want to open up to China a little, give it some sort of headway, or it's basically India wants the tech, India wants the expertise, India wants the knowledge, India wants the skills. India doesn't want money from China. That part is pretty clear. India can do very well without China as far as money is considered. But really, India needs that technology transfer kind of a play. So what they've done is that they're allowing those investments, but they're not allowing just assembly plants. They want those investments to come with a tech transfer kind of a deal. That's what's happening as far as China is considered. There has been no, uh, ever since Mr. Jaishankar has met Mr. Wong 2 days ago, there has been no such news from China's side. Now, what is China going to do? China, will it ease the fertilizer stop? Because that's one of the supply chain attacks essentially on the country, right? That you block fertilizers just before Rabi season is up. So they blocked supplies of rare earth magnets, which hurt the EV sector, which hurt the electronic sector, speaker manufacturing play. Then they attacked with the blockade of fertilizer supplies just before this critical period. Now, India has got supplies of fertilizers from Saudi Arabia. Uh, Saudi Arabia is filling in. So, because of China's blockage, the shortfall is of like 22 metric tons or something, 22 lakh metric tons, something of that sort. Very huge amount. Out of which uh, half is gonna come from Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia is essentially gonna help with half of supplies. Then Morocco, which is gonna add like 5 lakh metric tons. So 10 lakh comes from Saudi, 5 lakh comes from Morocco, and then rest for the rest 5 lakh they want to go to Russia. They want to increase its supply, and the rest 5 lakh, the remaining 5 lakh, that could be managed with the domestic stock. So that's how India has been running helter skelter as far as supplies of fertilizers are considered. But ever since Mr. Jaishankar met Mr. Vank, India opened up their JVs, this 24% investment norm. Then they did something else as well to sort of placate China. But China hasn't done anything except for one thing. Now, viewers of Thinkers Frequency know what that is, right? You know what China did after Mr. Jaishankar met Mr. Wong. You remember what they did, right? Something of high value, Kadi Ninda. You're right, Mr. Patil. They did Kadi Ninda of terrorism. So that's what we've got from China as of now. Let's see if we get something better, right? Uh, so FASTag usage is not growing. So the number of monthly transaction are at 350 to 380 million since January 24. So FASTag is not growing as a platform. So they installed FASTags and they did it, worked very well. Mr. Nitin Gadkari said that ever since India came out with the FASTag technology, they added like 10,000 crores to 10,000 crores to toll income, which is beautiful, right? Which is great, which is awesome, which is very, very remarkable. However, uh, that is not growing. The FASTag transactions are not growing. If FASTag transactions are not growing, so they say that they've covered everything. They've covered every highway. They uh, basically they've reached the length and breadth. Tools are installed and so on and so forth. So uh, the numbers aren't growing. So what they've done is, now viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember, to increase FASTag usage. This is right now they've written this, right? That usage is but we'll go a step further. We'll predict what's gonna happen. FASTag is going to get implemented as far as the electric vehicle charging place considered. So FASTag will also be used as a charging transaction platform in times to come, because that's already been planned, right? It's already used as a parking tool, but that's also going to get expanded. That use case is also going to get expanded, and with parking, with electric vehicles, especially the electric vehicles charging play, that's when the FASTag ecosystem will see its next step, and which is very important because it's a great system and it's something extraordinary that we've been able to implement at scale, and it needs to grow. If it's not growing, it means travel is not increasing, right, in absolute terms. So if FASTag is not growing right now, okay, what does it mean? That the travel essentially, or the logistic movement, is static. Now that's very bad news. That's not good news at all. So we need to make it happen. Mr. Patil says FASTag usage reduced for me as they removed tolls of the city. Yeah, they removed tolls of the city, but major part of FASTag is intercity travel, Mr. Patil. So that's what they're worried about. That if we are not being able to grow as far as that number is considered, it's not cool. It's not cool, right? Moving on. A lot of political chit chat, which we best not discuss. unless it's absolutely business related, right? Or finance related. So, even though, as we discuss, every business decision and every business outcome, every financial outcome is the result of the political will, sometimes most of politics, in fact, most of politics is always noise. It's those few decisions which make all the difference. Speaking of few decisions which make all the difference, Mr. Gadkari has given a huge interview today and a lot of insights. So, disclosure, I am a fan. I really like Mr. Gadkari. Okay. Uh, no political allegiance, but uh, I admire Mr. Gadkari for a lot of reasons. So, but in this particular article, there is a fact check which I need to do. Okay. Now, in this article, Mr. Gadkari, in context of talking about ethanol blending with fuels, said that India's share of agriculture in GDP is just 12%, compared to 20 to 24% of manufacturing and 50 to 54% of service sector. Okay, he said that share of Indian agriculture in GDP is 12%. But this is wrong. This is wrong. I had to read it. I had to check just because I respect him too much. So this number, I didn't expect it to be wrong, but the real number is 18%. So I actually uh, went to the government website in this morning and just did a fact check. So 18%. And second fact check which I want to do of Mr. Gadkari is that he said India's automobile industry is growing at a fast pace. We are now third largest at 22 lakh crore. 22 lakh crore is essentially $250 billion. He's right. He's right here. Uh, Behind China at 49 lakh crore. Now, this is yet again wrong. China's automotive industry is not at 49 lakh crores. Now, how did I recognize this error? Is that India's industry is at 22 lakh crores. Let's say this is right. And India sends 40 lakh cars every year. How can China's uh, industry be at 49 lakh crore? Because China sells 3.2 crore cars. So China sends like 7 8 times worth cars. So again, I checked, and China's industry is at some 1.5 trillion dollars or something. One, as compared to $250 billion of India, China is at 1.2 $1.4 trillion. So China is not just double or triple of India. China is almost 6 times, right? So two fact checks which I could do, and which happens, because Mr. Gadkari throws so many numbers when he's talking. Some of those numbers get off. However, now come to the context. So it doesn't matter because what essence of what he was saying is pretty solid. So he said that ethanol blending is a very important thing. And he said electric, flex industries, hydrogen fuel will become the number one in the world, because uh, right now ethanol blending is 20% in fuel, right? That's what they're trying. So viewers of Thinkers Frequency know already, but ethanol blending is essentially using sugar cane or corn, not sugar cane, but corn definitely, but some crops, and then what you do is you mix it with water, you churn it, you give it some enzymes, and then some distillation happens, and then some yeast is, some processing, and then you get ethanol. Okay, so that ethanol is fuel, just like gasoline, just like petrol, right? And if you mix that ethanol with fuel, suddenly your fuel becomes cleaner and greener, because ethanol is green fuel, right? It's not come out like oil essentially. So it becomes greener, and then it also becomes cheaper, because petrol is expensive. Petrol is essentially 120 rupees a liter or something. Compared to that, ethanol is at like 55 rupees a liter, 45 to 55 rupees a liter, right? So ethanol's calorific value is low. That means ethanol is uh, less efficient, or let's say a weaker fuel than petrol. However, since its cost is less, it's almost half, more than half, you know, the in terms of economics, the calorific value essentially doesn't uh, play that spoil sport. So he is Mr. Gadkari. I've been following him since 2013-14. Uh, he's been really bullish on ethanol. He says that the biggest problem India faces is the imports, right? Imports of crude. Because viewers of Thinkers Frequency would know that crude imports are a huge draw on Indian economy. So he threw a number here, which I didn't fact check, but I trust it to be right because it sounded right. So let me just tell you what that number is. Yeah. So we are importing fossil fuels worth 22 lakh crore. That's $250 billion worth of ethanol that, fossil fuels that we are importing. And which is basically energy in dependence is 85% of all our imports. So if we could sort that particular bit, if we could replace that thing, 80% of our imports are gonna reduce to whatever percentage, right? And if they reduce, India's fiscal situation improves, India's profitability as a country improves because we spend a lot of money on importing crude, right? And he says that this is a challenge. Besides, transportation accounts for 40% of air pollution. So he says that also leads to whatever it leads to, right? So he says we are working towards converting surplus food to fuel. Currently, we are using E20, which is a fuel blend of 20% ethanol and 80% gasoline. This is an answer to Mr. Tushar Tiwari's question. Are the existing cars ready for these blended fuel? People are complaining about the short life of cars because of this. So currently it's already happening. 20% of blended ethanol is already happening. And yes, some people have said that this leads to lower uh, shelf life of cars, or let's say lower run value. But tests, now I don't trust tests, so I'll take that with a pinch of salt, but tests say that it's not the case. So blended ethanol with some treatment is pretty much as good as petrols, but which sort of sounds a little counterintuitive because petrols have been there for a long time, and if you're fiddling with the fuel, the engines which are custom built for that fuel might just face some problem, right? So it makes sense for you to question it. However, uh, it's not. So, Mr. Kundalkar, I'm also going to answer your question. Just 1 second. I'm just finishing this very important bit because it's very data heavy and it's a very important also. So, E20 is right now 20% ethanol, 80% gasoline. We are exploring it to increase it to 27% and eventually hit 100% ethanol fuel that can completely replace gasoline. Now, he's been dreaming about this for almost 15 years. And right now we are at 20% ethanol. He says 27%, and then someday 100% gets replaced. And because ethanol comes from the farm surplus that we have, that the agrarian economy, they get boost. They get a per capita income boost because a farmer now he can not just sell food. He can sell this. Now my brother, a biotechnologist, he also envisioned this back in 2009 or 10 or something. Where he had a farm. Essentially, he was tying up with a farm, which was supposed to be giving this blended fuel kind of a thing. So they had just rolled out a subsidy or something of that sort, an incentive, and he saw this as an opportunity, but he was early. So there is, you've got to hit the market at the right time. You can be a visionary, but that's all not always a very profitable thing, unfortunately, right? If you're early to the market, you're early. It makes no sense. If you're late to the market, you're late. But he saw this coming. So now this is going to affect a lot of things. Now coming to more, This can be done through flex engines. Now, 11 companies, including Tata Motors, Mahindra, Toyota, and Hyundai, amongst others, have started working on this flex engine. Now, this is another answer to you, Mr. Tiwari. Uh, as I said, the custom built engine, which is running on, let's say, 20% ethanol fuel, that might start showing problem, right? A little bit, even though the test says otherwise, little bit. However, if the companies start incorporating this fuel in their design principles, then it works. Then it works, right? So the industry has to evolve with the fuel change. So that's been Mr. Gadkari's dream. He says like $250 billion worth of fuel coming. You know, we just pay so much on imports. Our entire economy is dependent on imports. Yeah, tomorrow, Saudi Arabia does something or America does something and crude goes up, our economy goes for a toss. Reduce the dependence on crude. And his spiel since the last 15 years has been blended ethanol. Moving on, uh, besides, work is to blend 10% isobutanol also with diesel for commercial vehicles. So he said ethanol has low calorific value, right? So it cannot work as a replacement of diesel. It can work as a replacement of petrol, but not diesel. For petrol, he says isobutanol with blended with diesel. So make diesel trucks more efficient. Greener and less dependent. Two-wheeler makers like Bajaj, Hero, and all, they are also working on 100% ethanol motorcycles. He claims, again, I haven't read anything from those guys, so I cannot say, but his dream about this is pretty solid. And he says that we want to increase the GDP contribution of agriculture with all these methods by using the farm produce for fuel from 12% to 24%. But again, I'll have to fact check. It's not 12%, it's 18%. So 18% to 24%, which is huge, So he says that it's gonna be amazing for the per capita income of the farm sector. So 54 ethanol cost between 55 to 60, 54, 65 with average cost of 60. Rate of petrol is 120, so it's half rate. I've already explained that. Yeah, so he says people have asked, like, sir, you've been dreaming about this and nothing has happened. I'm sorry, nothing. A lot of things have happened, but it's not happened as heavily as you wanted it to be happen. So what do you think about that? So he says that the fix is simple. The fix is the GST fix. So beautiful part. He says there is no adoption of higher ethanol blended fuels because of the 18% GST compared to 5% on fuel with up to 20% ethanol. Okay, so right now there is no incentive for making it up to 27% because higher blend of ethanol 18% GST, lower blend of ethanol 5% GST. So he says we're gonna fix this in the next GST revision, right? So people also asked him about the cafe thing. He says a lot of car companies are lobbying us with their own perspectives. Maruti obviously wants exemption for small cars. These Mahindra and guys, they want exemption for their commercial cars and so on and so forth. He says we're gonna decide whatever is best for our country. Now, there's another very very important part which he talked about. So I'm explaining this because this is heavy, right? This is heavy and this is coming straight from the horse's mouth. So whatever he's saying right now will lead to a lot of political outcomes. Policy outcomes, which are going to lead to a lot of business outcomes, right? So this is why it's very important. So I hope you're following, right? Agriculture, the automotive sector, the blended ethanol bit, the raising of the ethanol in the blend, the reduction of GST, which will make that happen. Right now, we've discussed that much. Then he says that about the road safety issue. Okay, road safety issue that people lose a lot of lives in road accidents, right? Unfortunate. But he says that we have come out with the norm which said 6 airbags, right? Everybody opposed us, but we did that 6 airbags. Then we've also come out with the norm which says with every two-wheeler, two helmets, ISI recognized helmets will be provided by the bike company, right? Then he says that a very interesting part, which I didn't know about, by the way, he says that there's 5 lakh accidents every year, 1.8 lakh deaths, unfortunate, 1 lakh, 1.8 lakh deaths by accidents every year, 5 lakh accidents, and 60% accidents happen very young people, 18 to 34. Now what the scheme has he's given is called Rahagir. And Rahagir says that if anybody rushes uh, somebody rushes to hospital, they'll get 25,000 rupees as reward. If there's any road accident and the people take the victim to a hospital, then they will be called Rahavir and awarded 25,000. Now this is slightly complicated. It says people. That means that 25,000 is gonna shared with people. How many people? Who takes the responsibility? So on and so forth. There must be something about the reporting thing. But Rahavir is something that needs that's apparently designed to motivate people to help accident victims, because Indian mentality is such that accident happens and they're like, okay, let's run away, right? So that's very sad, but this is one of the moves. Secondly, wherever the accident occurs, state road or NH, hospital expenses up to 1.5 lakhs for first 7 days will be borne by the government. And he says that if there's a study which says that if people can be rushed to the hospital quickly after an accident or right after an accident, 50% of mortality can be reduced. Mr. Patil says 20% mortality in accidents. Oh God, yeah, it's scary, right? It's scary. And I've personally seen very, very bad accidents. I'm sure we all have, and I hope and pray that we can, fix this. We can improve the situation. Rahagvir is a good move. People don't help because they don't want to get stuck with police proceedings. That is correct. That's correct. Nobody wants to deal with police. Nobody wants to deal with babus, and that's why people just stay out of the way. But they're trying. They're trying what they can try. Moving on, he said, in road engineering, detailed project reports made a lot of mistake. We found black spots worth 40,000 crore. We are making improvements. We have also decided to create tall dividers to avoid accident as people jump the roads. That makes sense. Tall dividers make sense for people to stop jumping the road. Airstrips on roads to help accident victims by airlifting. Now that makes a lot of sense, because a lot of times there is just no way to reach the hospital, right? Because there's so much of traffic and so on and so forth. So they're creating small airlifts so they can just airlift accident victims. Now this was about road safety. Heavy, right? Heavy interview. The fourth aspect of that interview was quality of road construction. Now this bit I had been following for a very long time. Okay, so that's where Mr. Gadkari has fallen short lately. And you know why that happened? Because what happened was that he essentially tried to, let's say, jack the system a bit. So he had a bunch of suppliers, okay, some bunch of contractors and so on and so forth. And what he thought was that these people were cartelizing. Cartelizing, I mean, Mr. Patil, Mr. Tiwari, Mr. Kondalkar, all the viewers, we are the big vendors and we set the price ourselves, right? So we're going to overprice the government. So Mr. Gadkari saw that as a problem. And what he did was he opened up the bids to much smaller players, right? This essentially led to, bad players. He says donkeys in the horse race started appearing, and which led to a quality decline as far as the road, and which is a very recent phenomena, right? So in earlier projects it wasn't that much, but now that's happening. So I'll say what he's saying. Initially I was building roads from concrete, but cement companies raised rate of concrete and moved to bitumen. Yeah, this is also what happened. So he accused cement companies of cartelization also. He said cement companies have raised the prices. I'm gonna move to bitumen. Screw these cement companies. Cement companies were like, okay, and then road debacle started happening. Okay, so this was one of the play. Bitumen. Now, bitumen and water are not friendly, and since our drains are not of good quality, holes come up on the roads or broken patches develop. So he says drains are a problem. Now this is a bit of a blame game, right? He says drains are a problem. Drains are not of good quality. Water and bitumen don't work. Due to which, uh, when water gets settled, the road starts sort of, you know, loosening itself, which is a problem. And people are like, sir, so what are you gonna do? So he says we're gonna cast the drains in the roads itself. He says, from now the drains will be precast. So if water flows does not lock up, there will be no damage to roads. Now what he's overestimating is his ability of casting the drains, right? What if he's also not being able to he says drains are not of good quality. That is basically a blame game on the drainage guys, right? So he's assuming that he'll be able to make the drains work better than the drainage guys. That's number one. Okay. We are adopting best practices available, so on and so forth. Now, we have also made changes in detailed project report aimed at attracting good people who may charge 4% extra but not compromise with quality of construction. So that is a bit. So there's an earlier fault of mine that I'm now trying to fix. There used to be 15-20 companies working with national highways, and I felt they were making a cartel. So I made a technical and financial qualifications liberal. As a result, 350 to 400 companies qualified for road construction, but quality got screwed. So that's you know that's the play. He says the people asked him, sir, road allotment pace has slowed down. He said earlier we used to allot the project only with 10% of land acquisition happened. Now it's the norm is 90%, so it's slowed down. But I'll make it faster. I'll make it 100 kilometers a day or something, right? So right now the number is at my project award rate has been 38 to 40 kilometers. Now my intention is to do 100 kilometers. This is not a political declaration. This is a dream, he said. So heavy interview, a lot of insights and a lot of gaps, a couple of gaps, no, three gaps, right? One was the agriculture number, which had to be fact checked respectfully, okay? Then the Chinese industry number, automotive industry number, that had to be fact checked. Then the particular drainage thing, that sounds a little optimistic. So that's that. Now I come to Mr. Kundhalkar's question. I'm sorry, Mr. Manish Kundhalkar. What's your view on Scott Adams? Which video or book of his will you recommend? So Scott Adams, sir, is a hero of mine, essentially. And if you want to read a book of his, Mr. Patil has picked How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big, which is a masterful book, great book, absolutely wonderful, funny book, and also very intellectually heavy. So that's one book I'd recommend. How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big. So moving on to the next story, with that covered, box office tide turns as small films make big waves. So this is a PR piece essentially, but it also has some weights. So box office, Indian film industry was heavily uh, dependent on big movies, very big movies, right? And what they were seeing was a drought after those big movies, which was very bad for the business, right? So what they tried doing was they tried going with the mid market segment, like 100 crore movies, right? 100 crore box office movies, and that sort of has worked as far as their share of movies is considered. He says the report says 14% rise in the film industry first half collection to 5,700 crores, and mid-size movies, 17 films crossed 100 crore mark between January and June, up from 10 in the same period of 2024. 17 films, 100 crore. Now, how you judge that this is a bit of PR is you don't know the budget of those 100 crore films, right? What if those were mega budget films which made just over which made just over 100 crores? What do you do with that? That's so they didn't say that, but okay. So 17 films crossed 100 crore mark, and increase was not driven by a handful of mega hits but a consistent stream of mid to high performing titles, which is great news, right? Mega hits is a bad strategy. Now, we've discussed this at Thinkers Frequency, but I'll have to say it again because this is very important. Mr. Woody Allen sir, another hero of mine as far as the world of cinema is considered, he said that movies were supposed to be small projects. Now, this we said just like 20 days ago or 10 days ago. Now, this is what the industry says right now. So, are we ahead of the curve? Of course we are. Of course we are. But let's just repeat ourselves. So, we said, Mr. Woody Allen said that movie business is essentially a small business, right? You make a small movie, you make a $10 million movie, and see if it works. If you lose, you just lose 10 million. If you gain, people will have a good movie. The director can do whatever he wants because he has freedom. And if you have 100 million and you've made 10 movies, with 100 million, you've made 10 movies, right? So people get more movies, directors get a lot of chances, new people get, chances, creativity gets up. And if you lose, you don't lose a lot of money. You sort of cap the loss, right? With 10 movies of 10 million, it's not possible that all 10 of them go down, right? And if you make good movies, you return like 30%, 40%, which is great, which is awesome. However, some MBA type came along in the movie industry, some studio executive, the suits, as they say in the film industry, some suit came along and he said, we don't want to make $10 million 10 movies. Let's make $100 million one movie. Okay? Because if they, and just put everything on it, because when this works, it'll make $200 million. Right? So we'll be able to double our money in 2 or 3 years, which will be a great investment. Now that sounds good on paper, because that sounds good for an MBA, right? But that's not a good news at all. At all. You know why? Because when you make a $100 million movie, the risk is so huge that you cannot afford the movie to fail. So then the movie becomes a market research project. The director doesn't get any freedom. The actors, the story doesn't get any freedom. You have to test that movie in all market segments, geographically, demographically, and so on and so forth. And when you test that movie, it essentially becomes a piece of shit. A stale piece of shit, right? So nobody likes that movie. Nobody cares about that movie because that movie isn't groundbreaking. And then it doesn't make money, right? So people get, instead of 10 movies, they get one movie. They don't like it. The director, 10 directors, instead of 10 directors, just one director gets a chance. And he makes a bad movie because he doesn't have any freedom. And then you didn't make a movie. So that is the disease that the film industry had been going through and is still going through. But this particular report says that this is not bad. Among top earners, Chhava was 693 crores and so on and so forth. Only one film crossed 250 crores so far, scoring the broad spread. He says the share of top 10 films in overall Jan has declined from 44% to 39% in 2025. A sign of broader participation. So let's wish for small movies, great movies, but small movies. We don't need big movies. It's bad for the industry. It's bad for creativity. It's bad for people. We need small movies to succeed, right? So let's hope for that. Moving on. Zydus has fell on the wayside with a cancer biosimilar drug that they had been making. Now, it was a biosimilar of an existing drug with a very big firm. So I'm just forgetting the name of that firm. It's called Bristol Myers Squibb, right? Giant. It makes a lot of money. Its patent expires in 26 May 2026. However, they've been Zydus guys have been working on a biosimilar, so they've sort of given a patent lawsuit. So they've given a cease and desist letter and so on and so forth. So let's see what happens. We're very complicated, right? Very complicated. Uh, Speaking of complicated, scooter market is growing, but bike demand under pressure. Says, and let me get the name right, Mr. Tu- Su- Sutsumu Otani. Sutsumu Otani. He's obviously Japanese. He's from Honda Scooters and Motorcycles division. He says that scooter demand is growing, but bike demand is under pressure, which is what we know about, and especially the affordability bike problem. But the scooter demand is growing, he says, is a signal that we are being able to, improve the women buying. Uh, what do we call it? The women buyer percentage in the market, the women buyer mix. So more women buying two wheelers. That's beautiful. Earlier, the perception was that two wheelers were unsafe and so on and so forth. But with the spread of this particular market, uh, bike, two wheeler market is getting a new life thanks to scooters. So he says, numbers say, two wheeler sales fell by 6% year on year. Scooter sales remained flat, but motorcycles dropped 9%. Oh my god. Oh my god. Motorcycles dropped 9%. Scooter sales remained flat. So, very sad to hear that. I just hope Indian buyers. So, a lot of buying, I guess it's gonna happen by Diwali. Diwali is in October. Right now, we are sitting at August. August, September, October. Essentially, we just have 2.5 months to see if the industry really picks up. So the coming festive season is gonna be very important for the entire industry. I have a comment. Mr. Paramjeet Olan says, "Kabhi workout running karte karte karo live. That'll be OG." वर्कआउट करते करते मैं लाइव करूं, मेंटल वर्कआउट के साथ साथ फिजिकल वर्कआउट. That sounds very difficult. That sounds very difficult. So difficult that I can't even take it, like seriously consider it. It's very difficult. Reliance is choosing to run solo in quick commerce. People were expecting Reliance to buy out something, but they say we're not gonna buy anything out. We're gonna go solo, and we are not gonna also operate dark stores a lot, because we already have our retailer network. So we're going to use that retailer network and run solo. Now there's another reason why Reliance won't do a buyout. Do you remember what that reason is? Do viewers of Thinkers Frequency know that reason? Why Reliance must not be very happy with the idea of a buyout? Because they burned their hands with Dunzo. So they invested like $250 million in Dunzo, and that didn't work out, man. It just went to zero, right? So they didn't like it, obviously. That experience wasn't nice. So they're saying we're gonna go solo and we're gonna kill it. And we have Reliance needs to revamp Geo Mart UI. They're doing well even with the UI problems. So UI, is a very American concept. Things which work with these people, the commodity players, are very functional. So the UI which you might not appreciate might just work for somebody, Mr. Tarun, in, let's say, a village or something, or let's say a tier 2 user or tier 1 user as well. It just might work for him. So UI is often misunderstood, is what I think. Moving on. So it's already going to be 9, and we're going to run a bit above the time target because some very important things couldn't be discussed because such a heavy thing. JSW had a 20,000 crore capex, which people were happy about. People were thinking, oh my god, it's going to be nice that these 20,000 crore capex is going to happen. But they say that's just going to be in our Dolvi unit. So they already have a Dolvi plant. They're going to say that that's where we're going to use our capex, and then also the Bhushan Power Steel case, and so on and so forth. So not good news for India, right? They say the market is still fragile, the export market is not good, the Indian market is also looking dicey, so we're gonna go easy with the capex. Bad news. Because we've discussed the biggest two problems with Indian economy are number one, capex, private capex, and number two, uh, domestic consumption, right? Moving on, speaking of problems, gaming industry is facing a real GST trouble. First of all, it should not be called gaming industry; it's betting industry. So betting industry is facing another GST trouble, and this GST trouble is at a particular play. So what happens is when you go to a betting app or this gaming kind of an app, uh, you let's say have 100 rupee thing, okay? You give 100 rupees. Now they have to charge 28%, the government charges 28% GST on deposit, right? So 28% goes away. So now you have 74 rupees to play with, right? However, that's a bad thing. So the government is like, the players are like, what they do is they add 28 rupees from their behalf, okay, and give your capital 100 rupees. So that's called a cashback, that's called an incentive, that's called a lot of things, right? Basically a lure for people to not worry about, otherwise they'll go to the illegal betting shop, right, which won't have that kind of a play. If they want to play with 100 rupees, they want to play with 100 rupees, they don't want to play with 72 rupees, right? So Mr. Tarun has written a comment. I'll respond to that. So that particular bit is coming under the GST gamut. So the government says we're going to charge you GST on that as well. The money that you're putting in other people's accounts on your behalf. So that's going to be double GST kind of a play. Lawyers are laughing at this. Lawyers say this has no meat. This is just government trying to cause problems. And but this is yet another trouble. It is trouble for now. Mr. Tarun says, I think the states would be happy to let the betting app continue operations if they are taxed as the same as surrogate goods. How much are surrogate goods taxed at? 1 second. Surrogate goods tax. No TDSC on surrogate goods. GST. Surrogate GST. I don't know. I'll have to check this. But they're already taxed at max. What do you mean by surrogate goods, by the way? Surrogacy is a different thing. So I think you miswrote something. But anyway, these players are taxed at sin rate, that is the 28%. So I don't know how they can be taxed more. But there's another retrospective tax case which is going on with the GST players and gaming companies, and that is 2017 to 2023. They want a retrospective GST of 1 lakh crore, right? So that's another case which is gonna be heard very soon. So moving on, some weird stuff. Okay, now hear this out. And just think if it sounds weird to you. Okay, it does sound weird to me. It sounds intelligent, well-meaning, and on the surface, but if you go a little deeper, you should see like, what does this mean? Why would you say that? That's what I feel. So here it goes, right? Inputs to IIP now being shared with ministry. So MOSPI says that whatever it shares, the data that it gathers and so on and so forth, the laggards, everything, it's gonna share with ministry. So MOSPI comes up with a lot of data, right? MOSPI is Ministry of Statistical Programming and Implementation kind of people. So they are gonna share industry inputs with ministries to closely monitor and respond to sector specific growth. So production is lagging and so on and so forth. So what they do right now is publish reports. They collect data, publish reports. And they say now that now we are going to share this report along with inputs with the ministries. But why can't ministries just check the reports? You put them out in public, right? So what is this? Is this Fugazi? What is this, by the way? Like, I don't get it. Like, everything that Mosby records for data, it publishes openly, right? Now, why do you have to make a news bit out of the fact that we are going to share these inputs with ministries? Can't ministries just take the inputs themselves? Right? They say that we're going to share which particular bit is lagging, which particular bit is doing well so that they can act. But that's what your report writes, right? So ministries can read the reports. Are you saying that you're going to courier those reports to the ministry and that's a news item? So doesn't sit well with me. Doesn't sit well with me. Does it see, do you see the problem I have with this news? Do you see it? Mr. Tarun says, sorry, I meant excise duty and VAT. I'm sure, now I'm not sure about VAT and excise duty. Excise duty is only an import thing, so this is a digital product. It cannot have excise duty. VAT I'll have to check. Now, DMart online sales soar to 21%, losses deepen. DMart has started its own online thing. They've invested like 3,500 crores in it, and so it's selling something, making some losses. But here's what I think. Here's what deeply worries me about DMart's future. Okay, listen to this. Listen to this and see if it deeply worries you too. So the executive says, now this is the chief executive, managing director, okay, Neville Noronha. He says, the nature of our industry and our job is to constantly compete, adapt and reinvent all the time. Till here, he's okay. It is literally warlike. Now, whenever somebody says something like that, I deeply worry about their future. Like, why would you say something like that, man? Like, you are a retail operator. You're a managing director at a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate, a retailer, you are sitting in AC offices and, checking Excel sheets and, industry reports. And he says that our job is literally like war. Now, this particular thing this is enough for me to be very scared about DMart's future. Somebody who talks like this, like, you got to be scared, man. You got to be scared, because this is not the sign of good leadership. We are at war. So what are we doing? We are selling less tomatoes than before. Where are the tomato sales? Where are the potato sales? We need to sell more potatoes. War. That's lame. Anyway, moving on. China's exports of rare earth magnets are rising in US. So China is letting US have some of those rare earth supplies, which is okay, which is fine. Not happening with India though. India has not been able to, get those supplies as much. So EU got it, America got it, but not India. Musk says XAI will make kid-friendly app called Baby Grok. By the way, XAI, X basically, Mr. Musk came out with Annie. It's a human companion AI trained on XAI. So they are also entering the human companion business. Does that make you feel good? Does that make you feel good, folks? You know which industry it's bad news for? It's bad news for Match Group, the Tinder guys, and Bumble also. So it's definitely bad news for them, because if all the incels and the lonely guys, they start talking to Annie, they'll probably not need Tinder and Bumble so much. Moving on. We discussed this. I hope I'm not missing out anything. I try to not miss out anything. Okay. Big Tech Alliance, reinsurance space. Reliance is good. Some big ticket alliances. Reliance entering into the reinsurance business, making it go up. Insurance under lens for exceeding spending limits. So what they did was, every department has a spending limit, right? And insurance industry is heavily regulated. So what these management of these insurance companies were doing was they were rising their expenses a lot. So a lot of money they were just showing as expenses for better tax, right? So tax guys caught them scanning 20 insurers for breaching EOM caps. Notice is likely soon. So you can't save money like that when you're so heavily regulated, right? So that is that. And a real there was a pharma company which was looking at acquiring this particular play, Gland Pharma. But ever since they started looking at that company as an acquisition play, the stock price went up a lot, and now they're troubled. So they're gonna pay extra. That always happens, by the way, but that's why you'd close the deal. IT companies title. We've covered everything. That's what I have for you, ladies and gentlemen. Oh yes, there's something I missed almost. China hawks out in the cold as Trump courts Beijing in U-turn. So Mr. Trump has allowed the export of Nvidia's H20 chips. They are slightly lower powered, but very good chips, which they had blocked for China. So China wasn't allowed any good chips by Nvidia. They had put an embargo on it. Trump has relaxed that, so China will get H20 chips. You know what China was doing to circumvent the chip ban? They used to be sending their coders and everybody, executives, to Singapore, which had all the greatest chips. Go there, go with their equipment, train their equipment, laptops and the models, and then go back. So they were circumventing it that way. But now that's not scalable, of course. So they've gotten better chips. They're gonna get better chips. And at the same time, the US has proposed a tariff on EV battery material, you know, because it wants to make by itself. Geopolitics decides everything. Every business decision, every business outcome is the result of the politician in charge. So a lot of action is going to happen as far as American battery component manufacturing is considered. A lot of problems are happening as far as deforestation and so on and so forth in the places where these things are mined. So things are going to change in that way, as they always do. And when they do, we'll predict them as we are right now. And we'll analyze them, we'll think them, and we'll have a lot of fun. With that, I come to the end of the 57th episode of Thinker's Frequency, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. I hope you have a beautiful day, personally and professionally. And I'll see you tomorrow, same place, same time, hopefully. Bye-bye. See you.